In Parshas Vayelech, the Torah gives us the mitzvah of writing Kisvu Lachem es Hashira Hazos. There's a mitzvah on every Jew to write his own Torah scroll. Now, this is a very expensive mitzvah, so that historically many people couldn't afford to do it. But it's really one of the mitzvahs in the Torah that every Jew should write, or perhaps commission, his own Torah scroll to be written. And when it describes that in the Torah, it says, write Hashira Hazos, this song, which is an interesting expression for the Torah. And there's some discussion about what it means. But one of the major interpretations is that the Torah is called a shira. The Torah is called a song. And that needs to be understood in a sophisticated way. There's a story that kind of throws a wrench into this. As explained by the Talmud, here's how the story goes. In the book of Shmuel, the story is that King David was bringing back the Ark of the Covenant, the Aron Bris Hashem, which had been captured by the Philistines, and they were bringing it back, and it was a tremendous celebration because the Ark had been captured, was devastating to the Jewish people, and as they brought it back, they were singing and they were dancing, but King David made one small error, and he placed this Ark on a wagon, which is not supposed to happen. It's always supposed to be carried on human shoulders. But it was placed on a wagon, and the wagon collapsed. And a fellow named Uzzah dove to save the Aron and was killed immediately upon contact. And this marred the celebration that King David was so excited about. And for some reason, King David deserved to have his celebration ruined. Aside from the questions of why did Uzzah deserve this, and what did he do wrong, because there's certainly a reason why he lost his life, doing something that seemed on some level heroic. Putting that question aside, the Talmud asks, why was King David punished? He was so enthusiastic, he had retrieved the Aron, and why is his celebration ruined? So it says, because he called the Torah Zmiros. He called the Torah song. It's another word for song, not shira, but Zmiros. And he said, Zmiros hayu li chukecha beves megura. Your Torah were songs to me in the places where I sojourned. And God says, you consider the Torah song? You blink your eye from it for a moment, and there'd be no world. You'd be nothing. The Torah is everything. You think it's a song? It's very serious business. I'm going to cause you to forget a rule that even small children remember. Because the Torah says the Aron must always be carried on one's shoulders. And King David forgot that rule. And for that reason, the whole punishment happened. As a result of forgetting that rule and putting it on the wagon was prone to collapsing, and because it collapsed, the person tried to save it and died. So that was King David's role in this. Now, one of the questions that Rabbi Yitzchak Hutner is bothered by is, why is the Torah not a Zmiros? If it's not a song, then why did King David leave that verse in Tehillim? In Psalms, you actually find the verse that says Zmiros hayali chukecha. So did he leave it in and it's false? Do we have a pasuk that's incorrect? And if the pasuk is true, then what fault is he at? How can he be blamed for what he said? The understanding seems to be as follows. In life, there's luxury and there's necessity. Luxury is always more pleasurable than necessity. Having exactly what you need, a little bread, a little water, is far less pleasurable than the most delicious and expensive cuts of meat. But not having luxury is far less painful than not having necessities. The absence of the necessities always causes much more pain than the absence of luxury. So a person who wouldn't have basic things that are necessities would be suffering much more greatly. Air, water, much more painful than a person who doesn't have a luxury. And there's always that relationship. Luxuries bring more pleasure, but the absence of necessities brings more pain. Well, now that we understand that relationship, there is an exception to this. And that is when a person recognizes how incredibly deeply they need that necessity, that drink of water, when a person was parched in the desert and had nothing to drink, gives them more pleasure than any luxury possibly could. When you recognize how fundamental a necessity is to your life, then it winds up bringing you more pleasure. As an example, we have eyesight, and we probably get more pleasure out of eating a steak than we do out of having eyesight. But if, God forbid, we were to wake up one morning blind and go a few days without eyesight, and then it would be restored, the pleasure we would get from that eyesight would outshine anything. So necessities can be far more pleasurable if you understand how much you need them. And therefore we can understand with this a magnificent Mishnah. It says, Kachi darka shel Torah. Here's the way of Torah. Pas b'melach tochal. You eat bread with a little salt, and you drink a measured amount of water, and you sleep on the floor. And if you do this, you will have such happiness in this world and the next. That's the way of Torah, provided, says the Mishnah, that you're toiling in Torah. You're focused on Torah. So what I see from this is that a person who's focused on the Torah has the ability to find intense pleasure in the taste of bread, in the taste of salt, in a little bit of cool water, in a place to sleep. The value of a warm place to sleep at night, even on the floor. There are many who don't have that. Well, the pleasure of Torah, the intense pleasure of Torah, does not come from placing it on a wagon and watching it ride by. It comes from putting it on your shoulders. The Torah says you must carry it. When you lift the burden of responsibility for living a life of Torah, that's where the pleasure comes from. It's the pleasure of necessity. If you've ever been privileged to meet people who are truly living lives of Torah, you'll find that their lives are filled with pleasure, but they're not carefree. These are people who have demanding schedules, who are very focused on the prize, and they're not always seeming so relaxed. There's a lot of responsibility on their shoulders, and they get enormous pleasure out of that lifestyle. King David said the Torah is a song. It is a song. That's not false. But it's not a song that you can enjoy from a distance. It's a song. The pleasure of it comes from putting it on your shoulders. And apparently, on some level, King David didn't fully appreciate what was happening in his mind, in his life, when he said it was a song. On some level, it wasn't calibrated, say the Svar. And therefore, he was punished with this exact appropriate punishment, placing the Torah on a wagon. You don't get to watch it happen. The greatest joy in life comes from the hardest work, from the most responsibility. The greatest joy most people get in their lives is from their children, because that's a deep responsibility, and it's something that we put so much effort and energy and attention into. The Torah is the greatest source of pleasure in the world, but if it doesn't come with obligation and responsibility, it does nothing. Groups within the Jewish people, even with very well-meaning people, who don't accept the obligations and responsibilities of Torah, get nothing out of the Torah. It's deeply unfortunate, but it has to be said. And therefore, to the extent that we can commit ourselves to things in life, the meaningful things, to that extent that we put it on our shoulders, it says the Aaron would lift those who lifted it. When you put it on your shoulders, it would lift you up. The Torah is a song, but it's the song that comes from toil and hard work and real firm commitment.